sometimes a film just finds its place. So that was a statement I heard you say in an interview, and I think just a second ago. Did The Queen of Hollywood Boulevard find the place you thought it would, or did people actually find something new about it that was fascinating to you that you're like, oh, okay, wow, it didn't find the place I thought it would, but they liked this about it?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to go into every film shooting for the stars. You know, everyone wants to be in Sundance, everyone wants to be in South by, everyone wants to be in Cannes and Venice. And there's a million reasons why you might not get in there, but you don't get in. And then you got to see where can it live, you know? And I found that through a series of curators and programmers like Boston Underground Film Festival and Beyond Fest and a bunch of places, Mammoth, and these places, which were the first places to accept it. It started finding this really cool audience of real cinema lovers, you know, I didn't really see it when I made it as, even though it was based off all these 70s cult films I loved, I didn't see it as like a genre cult movie. And that's where it started living, and it started finding this really cool audience of people. And yeah, it's funny. So many things run through my head when you say that, like, where did it find its, I think it's still finding its place. I think it's in its release online now, and it's on Shudder. It's on all these, Shudder, which I love, and it's on Amazon, it's on Tubi, all these different outlets for it. I think it's starting to find a cool core group of followers that really like it, and I think it's really cool that, maybe some films have 1 million people that like it, maybe one film has 100 people like it, but they love it. And it means a lot to me that they love it. And I get email, like I got a few emails recently just out of the blue, or Facebook messages from people, and they were like, this film just like hit me. Like, I don't know what it is. And I'd never met these people in my life. I never had anyone reach out to me. So it's kind of a surreal experience, even on a small level, because the film didn't become a giant success, right? It didn't become a breakout hit that you may have, I don't know if I ever thought that's what it was going to be, but that, the opposite of what not the opposite. I'm trying to say this succinctly. I think it's still finding its core audience, and the film's audience is evolving all the time. And I think that's what I mean when a film finds its place and it finds its life. They're almost like living organisms movie. They work their way through a nervous system of content, of media, of technology now. And I think audience members are very smart at this moment, and they have a lot of options. And I'm very grateful that any audience member chooses to watch my film when they have tens of thousands of other ones. And the fact that it has started finding a core audience and finding an audience of people that have even reached out to me about the movie is really special. And yeah, it does go, a film finds its place. You can't force it.
I like that. And I think you also have talked about you want to make movies that create dialogue. So is it that you're okay if somebody doesn't like it, as long as it's creating some interesting conversation? Because not everything, even we put out, people get upset over the smallest thing, but I'm actually satisfied when it's creating a conversation.
Yeah, I had a college professor, they used to say that making art was to incite discourse. And I truly think that's all that kind of matters in the end of the day. Good or bad, that's your Chinese dinner, Was the food good? Was the food bad? Films are much more complicated than that. Even films that don't seem to be that way. All art is. All art is asking you to just go dig a little deeper. So nothing makes me happier than hearing or seeing people talk about my film. I don't care if you hate it. The worst thing I could do and I think any filmmaker or artist could do, is be mediocre. And we die in mediocrity. And I think right now, in this crazy content-laden world that we're in, I think our biggest enemy as artists is mediocrity. And that's my goal as a filmmaker. I don't necessarily think I make great movies. Some people hate them. And I'm okay with that, because I just want, if you're going to talk about it, if it's going to bring up conversation, if it's something that in any way incites you to discuss anything, I'm happy. And that's just how I feel, you know?
Did you see the documentary on Chris Byrne? He was the artist.
The artist who shot it. I've never seen it, but I know his art. He did the Lacma lamps.
Yeah.
And he got shot in the arm, and he made the train set over there.
Right. Well, I think that was part of his art thing, was to do the shooting.
When he had them film him shooting it, getting shot in the arm.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. See, I love performance artists, and I love that type of art. And I don't think I'm that shocking in any way. I'm not like Gaspar Noé or someone like that, but even though I love those filmmakers, John Waters and Gaspar Noé, real transgressive cinema, you know, that pushed us, Harmony Korine. But I think, an artist like Chris Byrne is just like that. You know, recently at the Venice Biennale, this artist whose name I can't remember, he brought to this Venice Biennale and put it in a museum, in an art gallery, a boat that migrants died on.
Oh, wow.
On their way to Greece, I believe. And he put it in the gallery. And a lot of people were like, you know, that's exploitative, that's whatever. I go, well, you're going to talk about it. So you can say whatever you want about the artist, but he did his job. His job is done now. Now it's your responsibility as critics, as audience, to go discuss it, and you figure it out. So, yeah.
Well, in a day and age when people are getting arrested for helping people in the desert and giving them water, you know, that are trying to, whatever your feelings are, they're still there, and they're whatever, and now people are being surveilled for helping people. So that's an interesting statement. Yeah.
Totally, it's a giant statement that he's making, and I believe we are living in a very polarizing time of, like, on one hand, you do have, like you're saying, like the surveillance state, and third world living is going into the worst it's ever been. The discrepancy between rich and poor is terrible, and there's all these, and these are all things that, without knowing it, people are analyzing in film. You know, in a horror movie that is about clowns killing homeless people, it might actually have some subtext to this idea of politics. So that's like my point about film. I just think we deserve to the filmmakers to just look a little further into what they're doing sometimes.
I know Chris Byrne, he faced a lot of backlash, not just from not just from patrons, but from the art world. And I think he became quite upset and isolated himself a little bit, but it also drove him further into his work. So, you know, that's the thing. Do you become so, I don't know if avant-garde is the right word, but successful at creating this conversation, but then it creates, that's the part I hate to see in artists, that it shuns them, it makes them shun the world, you know?
Well, I think people forget how sensitive artists are. You know, and I'm not apologizing for artists, because as an artist, you get to live the greatest life, you know, the blessed life, you know, you get to create, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think, but there's a certain yin and yang to that. And artists are very sensitive, and they take their work very serious, I think, a lot. And now in the day of Twitter and social media, everyone's a critic, right? And even more than that with Chris Byrne, where people really ostracized him, but at the same time, that became his legacy. He became a legend because of that, you know? So who knows what the, you know, in the end, it kind of goes back to the idea of, like, a film finds its place, like art finds its place as well. And whether that's good or bad to people is kind of hard to judge, you know? Look at how many it's gonna get dark for a second, but look how many great artists have killed themselves, right? People who you thought were on top of the world. And they've, you know, because we never know about someone's inner monologue. So that, again, it just goes back with art and with film and with media. And I think one of the things I, as a filmmaker, hope to do just a little bit is just ask an audience to be like, just talk about it, just discuss it, just know that, like, these stories are for you, and we love that you enjoy them, and we love for you to discuss them.